So I'm reading a book called Charity Detox, what charity would look like if we cared about results. And I think this is really important, specifically because we fail to realize in most cases, especially if you're an exhausted, charitable person who is compassionate exhausted, as they commonly refer to it, meaning you've been incredibly compassionate, you've given all you can give, you're not seeing results in the people you've been helping, you don't know what to do. And this book discusses the importance of those charities. I also want to incorporate some conversation on smart societies and identifying where, we need to be assisting. We're giving the fish, but we're also teaching to fish. If we just give fish, which is a tactic, and when we talk about power and control methods, we talk about power and control methods where people intentionally only give the fish because now they've created a society that is reliant on the fish being given to them. They don't teach them how to fish intentionally because that keeps this demographic having to go back to whoever gave them the fish in the first place. That means they need to be obedient to the person, the fish giver, for lack of a better word. That means that they need to be, kind of enslaved, whatever that looks like, to the person giving them the fish. And this book talks about, and this is specific to people who are living in poverty, but this entire practice and this entire model correlates to anyone who's living under any sort of power and control. This is a perfect model of that and a perfect example. The only way to resolve these issues is to teach to fish, to provide opportunity, to create opportunity. And that opportunity creates opportunity additionally for freedom. You don't like to eat fish, but if you learn how to fish, you could sell your fish and start buying burgers. You know what I mean? So you're giving people, and it's talking about the importance and significance of giving people the opportunity, to earn on their own. So we're on chapter 3, Social Entrepreneurs. In his book, How to Change the World, David Bornstein describes an emerging landscape of innovators advancing solutions that have potential to transform. He calls these innovators social entrepreneurs. The quiet global movement they have initiated, he calls social enterprise. Social entrepreneurship is the pursuit of innovative solutions to social problems. Social entrepreneurs are driven to find sustainable solutions to the world's perplexing social problems. They pursue this mission with passion, thinking outside the box, taking risks, not limiting themselves to resources presently in hand. They are outcome-oriented. They draw upon the best thinking in both the business and nonprofit worlds and create whatever organizational structures are needed to accomplish their mission, religious and secular, nonprofit and for-profit, and hybrids of various sorts. Take global businessman and industrialist John Coors, for example. Many years ago, John was on a late-night flight from Amsterdam to Nairobi when he suddenly awakened from his slumber. According to the flight monitor, the plane was just crossing over the Sahara Desert into sub-Saharan Africa. As John glanced out his window, he saw nothing but a sea of blackness below. For hours, as the plane flew over the desert vastness, he saw not a single light from a village or a road. There were millions of people living down there, John was sure, but these people were living in total darkness. The realization that struck John with a force he was unable to shake. John was no stranger to energy needs. Through his previous involvement in solar power energy, he had learned that 1/3 of the world has no access to electricity. But of all the dark places on Earth, John thought as he peered down from the night sky, sub-Saharan Africa must be the darkest of all. The disturbance he felt in his spirit did not leave when he touched down in Nairobi. Over the following weeks and months, he researched the darkness. His suspicions were confirmed. He discovered that 2/3 of the people living in sub-Saharan Africa had no access to electricity, that 500 to 600 million of them still cooked over wood fires. Deforestation was a major problem, as were respiratory ailments due to the inhalation of smoke. The development of clean, affordable sources of light and heat could address a whole spectrum of serious environmental health and social concerns. Help versus investment. John was and is a visionary, and he had significant capacity. Former leader of America's largest brewing operation and current president and chairman of the highly successful Coors Tech, He had both the resources and the connections to initiate a large-scale energy project. But this venture would be marketed differently from any other business enterprise he had undertaken. This one was a calling. To John, it seemed clearly to be a vision authored by God. It would be nonprofit. Every dollar of capital invested would go directly to benefit the people it was designed to serve. He would call it Circle of Light. The concept was technologically simple. The program would set up energy stores in rural communities. Operating as member-funded co-ops, these energy stores would provide to each subscribing household a home cooking system, a 2-burner stove with a propane tank, and a complete home lighting system powered by a 12-volt battery. The nominal fee charged for exchanging propane tanks and recharging batteries would cover store operations and enable the co-op to be self-sustaining. A minimum of 250 member households, approximately 2,000 residents, would be required to initiate a community energy center. Local co-op boards comprised of community church and business leaders, both men and women, would be formed to assume management responsibility and accountability. Light of Circle could thus provide a low-cost technology, simple, sustainable source of modern energy to millions of poor families throughout sub-Saharan Africa and beyond. And he talks about, in this book, I want to share another thing that he discusses. He says to focus the programs of rehabilitation on opportunity-based incentives. Teaching people to work only helps if you have paid opportunity for them. So finding something meaningful to change one person's life, who can then go on to change others, is more meaningful than finding something for a night that, assists hundreds or thousands of people. That means taking on smaller sponsorships where you offer and author and sponsor the rehabilitation or repurposing of smaller groups as entrepreneurs who have, business that it minds is more long-term and big picture, more helpful than creating, 100 solutions for one night. So if you can rent out a hotel room for 100 people for one night, it would be a better investment to take the same amount of money, create some sort of program or platform that will invest in maybe 5 people or families and follow them for the long term and sponsor and support them for the long term, right? So become invested, don't become, just an endless pit of meals. Become someone who chooses 10 people to teach how to cook their own meals, how to forage for their own food, metaphorically speaking, of course, because we don't live in the forest. This is 2024. We don't have a need for suffering in the human experience, and I've explained that in so many ways. Social media, algorithms, and virtual law are needed. They are necessity. Not more so or in exchange of, but in addition to the regular laws that we have going on. I cannot tell you how many police reports I have filed for harassment by electronic means with proof and evidence. This has now spilled over onto my church. This has now spilled over onto my doctor. This has now spilled over onto my friends and family members and has for 5 solid years of harassment. Just in what I have experienced, AI application developers and startups have what they need: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, all of these platforms, TikTok. They have all of the information they need to integrate application-based software developers who will, prevent this sort of harassment from occurring. Therefore, freeing up time in our court systems, freeing up, money from our taxpayers that are being invested into court systems to investigate things like this, freeing up law enforcement to investigate other things. Because let me explain the practice. I submit a police report for harassment by electronic means. It goes to some big, ginormous mailbox where a detective decides if he cannot prove or can prove that it is occurring and who is doing it. If they don't think they can, prove who is doing it because they either don't have funding to do so or they don't have technology or understanding to do so, it just sits in that box and it continues to be a problem. So if we can run AI algorithms that prevent it from being a problem in the first place, that prevents someone, as soon as someone writes that inaccurate depiction of me, for instance, who's labeled as a public figure because of the amount of followers that I have had, I didn't want to be a public figure. I didn't want to be a political figure. I didn't want to be someone fighting for social justice. I was just a mom who saw opportunity in promoting, and influencing on some of the things that I used in a day-to-day basis. I saw opportunity to make a commission off of the sale of these products, and therefore I became a public figure. Now that I have been classified as such, there needs to be law and protection that protects myself and my 4 children. Separating me from my children is not protection. That's pain. That's abuse. I need to be reunited with my children, and we need to have pragmatic solutions, practical solutions, logistical solutions. Can you stop doing that, please? That will help resolve these issues for myself and for others following this path. This is a career now. People are making money and supporting their families off of influencing on platforms, doing business on platforms. That means that everyone in the future who does business on any sort of, across all of the platforms is going to have a public figure or a public, persona. What are we doing to protect these people? What are we doing to keep the criminal justice system and civil law, running smoothly? Prevention is key. Just like any other sort of problem that we encounter, we need solutions. And we have them, and we need to figure out a way to offer them to scale so that no one needs to go through what I've gone through. My name is Heather Gillespie, Heather GEE, HLG forever _ and VLAW, VLAW, which are first letter acronyms that make a word VLAW, virtual law. Those are my children's names, Viviana, Lewis, Alexis, and Weston. You guys have a great day.